A very good afternoon to all of you. I'm Dr. Shilpa Lodha, Assistant Professor from Department of Accountancy and Statistics, Mohanlal Sukhada University, Udaipur. And we are going to talk about the IPSIT model in blended learning mode, essential technologies and resources. And at the outset, I express my heartfelt thanks to the organizers for giving me this opportunity to talk about the IPSIT model. But before we proceed, let's first understand what is blended learning. See, education is no longer just about putting your pen to a paper or just memorizing facts. Today, innovative educators in both higher education and corporate learning and development, they're improving learning through technology, which is evidenced by the rapid adoption of technology-assisted teaching methods and, of course, blended learning models. Many of us are already using some of the modes, some of the tools, and some of the resources of blended learning, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic times. Even this refresher course is also going on this theme. We are attending several courses on this theme. So, what is a blended course? A blended course includes a mix of both face-to-face teaching, which is also called instructor-led learning, and online or digital course components. When we blend these two components, face-to-face learning and online components, this mixing gives students some control over the path and pace of the course. It is not completely the online course. Neither it is a lecture course that is broadcast online. It also does not include course changes that simply swap analog tools for digital ones. In blended learning, the in-person and online elements work together to create a richer learning experience and do not simply duplicate course content in varying formats. It is an approach to education that combines online educational materials and opportunities also for interacting online with traditional place-based classroom methods. It may require the physical presence of both teacher and student, and it may not require. But it certainly gives some element of flexibility, or we can say some element of control to students with regard to the time of the course, place of the course, the path of the course, and the pace of the course. So basically, it consists of combination of personalized online learning, teacher-led instruction-based learning consisting of small group, and collaborative learning. It is collaborative learning because not only the teacher and students are interacting with each other, but student-to-student interaction is also there to come up with their own creative ideas and solutions to a given problem. Since we have talked about that the blended learning is a combination of online and face-to-face mode of learning. So first we have to discuss what are the different activities you can do when you go for the online mode and what are the different activities you can do when you go for the face-to-face mode. Because the IPSIT model is nothing but the steps you have to follow when you want to implement the blended learning environment in your institute or college or university. So let's first discuss what are the different activities, because in blended learning mode, the IPSIT model will provide you the step-by-step guide how to implement blended learning, and in that you have to plan each of the activity, each of the course material on which mode you are going to pursue. So let's first understand what different activities we can perform on online mode. First, the students can be given access to various e-resources, definitely provided by the instructor, but they are generally in the form of open educational resources, or which is abbreviated commonly as OER. These may be consisting of simply text, graphics, animations, simulations, even gaming, interactive multimedia, videos, only audios. So these type of educational resources can be uploaded on LMS, your learning management system, by the instructor, and the students may be provide access to these resources, and the students may be asked to read or go through a particular e-resource, and then the content may be discussed in the face-to-face mode. Okay. So we are just providing them access to various e-resources, and the e-resources, actually this open educational resource is a term which is first coined at UNESCO's 2002 Forum on Open Courseware, and it designates the very definition of OER as teaching, learning and research materials in any medium, digital or otherwise, but that reside in a public domain or have been released under an open license that permits no cost access, use, adaptation, and redistribution by others, with generally no restriction, or sometimes there are some limited restrictions. Actually, this open licensing is built within the existing framework of intellectual property rights as defined by the relevant international conventions, and it of course respects the some respect it gives to the authorship of the work. But when we talk about OER, the various kind of permissions which you can assign with OER, as proposed by David Wiley, which he commonly says the 5R activities or 5R permissions you can assign with your OER. First is retain. You can give the rights to students to make, own, or control the copies of the content. They can download those contents. They can duplicate. They can store them, and they can manage them. Those resources. The students can also be given the right to reuse in a wide range of ways. They can use those contents in a class, in a study group. They can make their own website and upload that content. They can make a video using those contents. The next right is the right to adapt, right to revise. You can adjust, you can modify, you can alter the content in your own way. You can even translate those content in another language. This is called revision of those contents. You can also do the remixing. Remixing means simply creating a mashup. You can combine the original or the revised content with other material to create something new material. This is called remixing. Then you can also redistribute. The right to share copies of the original content or revision or remixing. You can share those contents with others. This is called the redistribution right. So various kinds of permissions you can assign with these open educational resources. So this is the first you can say the activity you can perform when you go for the online mode. You are simply creating your own e-resources and you are giving links to the students. Next, you can provide the access to various links or e-resources already available or digital libraries, which is generally suggested by the instructor, and they are very much related to your course curriculum, because the instructor is better able to find the important links or e-resources or digital libraries and help the students search their contents, search the contents related to their course curriculum, and ask them to read those contents, and then they can discuss in the face-to-face mode of teaching. So these resources generally consist of various kind of databases, various kinds of ebooks. There are several websites, several platforms where you can read free ebooks. There are some paid ebooks platform also. There are several e-journals. There are several online dictionaries and encyclopedia, the link of which you can provide to your students. There are several official publications. You can give an activity to your students to search for some official publication and collect data from that particular publication regarding a particular phenomenon. You can ask the students to go through some online newspapers or read a particular article on those newspapers. You can also ask students for go through some referencing resources, because when you prepare some kind of report and you have to give your bibliography, you can ask them some online referencing resources like Cite Them Right Online or EndNote or WebEx, Mendeley. There are several referencing resources which are designed to help students with referencing. Actually, these are personal bibliographic databases which you can use to store your collection of references. And they also help you how you can search the major databases and you can import records to your own library. If you talk about digital libraries, which is also called online library, internet library, or we can say digital repository, it is simply a digital collection of online database or digital objects, which can include, again, the text, images, audio, video, digital documents, or any kind of other digital media which is accessible through the internet. In digital libraries, you can go through the digitized content like the word processor files, Excel files, or your PowerPoint presentations, your videos, your social media posts, or you can go through the digitization of print or photographs which you have in hard copies. You can make them, you can convert them into the digitized content also. So these digital libraries not only store these contents, but they also provide means for organizing, searching, and retrieving those contents contained in the collection. And the students may be asked to go through these e-resources and search a particular topic. Then you can ask student to go for attending certain MOOCs or SMOOCs. Actually, MOOCs are nothing but massive open online course, and SMOOC are synchronous massive online course. The definition, the full form itself tells what the meaning of MOOC course. Massive means attracting a large number of participants, generally in thousands at a single time. The courses are open because it takes place in an area that is open for anyone to read, reflect, and comment upon. It is free, and the content and the work done in the course is shared between all people taking the course. These days, there are n number of MOOCs available, like XMOOC, CMOOC, DOC, that is DOCC, BOOC, BOOC. These are various types of MOOCs which we will discuss in the later part of this presentation. But what I want to communicate is the UGC concept note has provided a suggestion that in your entire course module, if some of the course contents are optional, suppose a part of the module is optional, where a student can select either the provided course content or to perform a particular MOOC course. He can attend that MOOC course and bring a certificate to avail the credit for that optional part of the module. So these kind of experiments are being suggested in the UGC concept note, that even a part of the course may be replaced by a certain MOOC, and that MOOC may be suggested by the instructor to the students. SMOOC are synchronous massive online courses. The only difference between MOOC and SMOOC are that the SMOOC is synchronous. MOOC is very time flexible. You can there is no need for the physical presence of teacher and student at the same time. But the very word synchronous means that they have to be present at the same time. So this is the only difference between MOOC and SMOOC. And I have seen that some of the SMOOC, in fact, majority of the SMOOC are chargeable, whereas MOOC is freely available. So these type of courses may also be suggested to the students to go and attend some MOOC courses. Then there are n number of activities, n number of other activities which you can do in the online mode. You can ask students to attend online virtual sessions where the teacher taught entirely either online, or he can teach the elements of face-to-face courses through some learning management system, and maybe other educational tools and platforms. So virtual sessions may be there. You can also ask students to perform some individual or group activities using any ICT tool or learning management system. You can ask them to go for some flipped classroom activities, jigsaw puzzles, crossword puzzles. You can send them quiz or test questions, fishbowl activities, think, pair and share activities, polling activities. You can brainstorm ideas. There are several activities you can assign students using any ICT platform. You can also ask students to participate in workshops or webinars which are directly related with your curriculum, and the instructor may suggest to pick the right kind of workshop or webinar, and the students may also be asked to prepare a report on that particular workshop or webinar. They may be asked to complete assignments and upload them on learning management system or any other ICT platform. Assignments can be given, tests and quizzes can be given. The students can also be engaged into virtual labs, simulations and museums. See, this is I would say a novel initiative by government of India. In several places, the virtual labs have been established, and students from remote areas are given access to those virtual labs. Actually, the virtual labs provide students the result of an experiment by simply modeling the physical phenomenon by a set of equations and carrying out simulations to yield the result of the particular experiment. So the experiments are simulated. You have the feeling that you are actually performing the experiment in a lab, but you are actually doing it virtually. So these virtual labs are very helpful. You can provide measured data for virtual lab experiments corresponding to the data previously obtained by measurements on a particular actual system, and you can compare the results. You can remotely trigger an experiment in an actual lab and provide the students the result of the experiment through the computer interface. So these are particularly helpful in science and engineering field, where the students are given access to some of the virtual labs and they learn through simulation and remote triggering the experiment. Students can also be engaged in webinars, e-conferences, online short-term training programs. Here, the role of the instructor is to help the students pick the right kind of program, which will be helpful in their course curriculum as well as the future growth. So this instructor can help the students to pick the right kind of program for the students. Students can also be engaged in online internship and projects. There are several companies these days offering online internships where the projects are assigned to them and they have to complete at sitting at their home, or they may be given access to some online databases and they have to prepare certain kind of reports, and this is the way they are doing their internships. Or any other activity which is related to the course curriculum, but the only condition is, since this is online mode, so the student and teacher need not be present in the physical classroom. All the activities are done through the online mode or some ICT platform or through some learning management system. So these are the various activities which we can do online through online mode. But when we talk about face-to-face mode, because since this is blended learning, some of the activities are performed in online mode and some of the activities are performed through face-to-face mode. So all these activities are performed in a different manner in face-to-face mode also. So the only difference is the the platform which we are using, because similar activities which we are doing through the online mode can also be done through face-to-face mode, as you can see in the next slide, that if we are using the blended learning environment, some kind of initial lectures which are called short duration lecturettes may be given to the students before we start a new topic, so that a rapport is built among students about a given topic, and they can search after that some online materials, learn themselves, and then discuss with their instructor. They can resolve queries based on self-learning or group learning. Students may be given some queries, what they have learned or what they think about a particular situation. They may be given some problems, and the students may be asked to give the solutions to those problems. Students can be asked to participate in group activities, just as similar as we discussed in the online mode. Certain group activities can be performed in classrooms with their peers, or they may be given some individual activities also. They may be given some collaborating and co-creating new knowledge activities, because the student-to-student interaction is important in blended learning environment, so that they can learn from each other. So these kind of activities will help students learn from each other. Apart from accessing online material, in face-to-face mode, students may be asked to go to the library, pick a particular book, read a particular topic, and discuss it in the classroom. They may be asked to perform some field visits and prepare a report on the basis of that. They may be asked to participate in a particular sport or be an audience of particular sport, and n number of activities you can assign to your students regarding that. Students may be also asked to face-to-face training, physical training, apprenticeship, internship, because these are the traditional methods which we have been using in face-to-face teaching since years. So these may not be denied. The importance of these methods may not be denied. If needed, if online training is not fulfilling our objectives, the students may be asked to go for the physical training or physical internships. They may be asked to perform experiments in physical labs, participate in hackathons, working in maker spaces, etc. They may be asked to appear for periodical assessments. Instead of online assessment, they can be asked for the offline exams, where they have to sit in a classroom and do their tests, or any other kind of instructional activities where the student and teacher has to meet physically, whether it is in classroom, whether it is in the campus or it is out of the campus. The geographical location is not important, but the physical presence of both teacher and student is important in face-to-face mode. So we can easily identify that the activities are similar in both of the modes, but we have to decide what kind of blend we are going to introduce in our college, in our institute or our university, so that our learning objectives are accomplished. You have to plan certain activities through face-to-face mode and certain activities through online mode, so that your objectives are accomplished. So the IPSIT model, which we are going to talk about today, is simply these steps that you have to follow while implementing the blended learning environment in your institute. So it consists of the 5 steps. First is the identify resources and learner-centered activities. You have to identify various resources and which kind of activities you are going to perform to achieve a particular course objective. And later you will see that it is a very detailed plan that you have to make in advance at the beginning of the course, that which activities are going in the online mode and which activities we are going to perform in the face-to-face mode, what resources we will require, what kind of hardware we will require. So it is a detailed plan of everything so that our course runs in a very smooth and efficient way. In the second step, you have to provide resources and announce activities on LMS according to which the instructor and the learner both act accordingly, and they can get the access to those resources and perform their part of assignments. The third step is scaffolding and support to learners. Actually, it is the process of, you have to watch the progress of students, whether they are on the right path, whether they are having any problems. So you can support the learners to use these resources and perform those activities which have been assigned to them so that the course objectives are accomplished. And if there are any learning gaps, you have to identify those learning gaps. You have to collect feedback from students and instructors as well, so that the lacunas may be resolved, the problems may be resolved, so that our the blended learning environment is efficiently runs. And the last step is testing. So these are the 5 steps that you have to perform, and let me discuss each step in detail. The first step is identify resources and learner-centered activities. As you can see that the slide contains the detailed course plan. It is in 2 parts. The second part is in the next slide. The first part consists of the basic information about a particular course. As you can see that there are 4 modules in my particular course. So you have to just mention the instructor name, the institute name, which kind of program, which kind of course, how much credits are there, how much marks are there, what will be the ideal class size, or what will be the group size, what are the prerequisites. If you want to run this course on a blended learning environment, what kind of resources you are going to need, what kind of tools or technologies you are going to need. Here you have to mention each and everything: the infrastructural need, the hardware needs, the technology needs, the learning management system needs. So prerequisites are related to these things. Then you have to mention what are the objectives of your courses, and then you can mention the module. Module 1 consists of 1.1, 1.2. The subparts of the module will be mentioned, and then their credits, individual credits will also be mentioned. The lower part is the detailed plan. Here you can see various columns. That first column is the serial number of module, then number of related learning objectives, how many objectives you are going to accomplish through each of the module, and how many weeks you are planning to complete a particular module. Then you have to mention what are the resources you are going to need under the online mode, and what are the activities you are going to perform under the online mode. And the similar thing you have to plan for the face-to-face mode, what kind of resources, what kind of activities you are going to need. Under the resources, as far as resources concerned, you have to mention which kind of open educational resources you are going to access, which kind of URL you are going to share with your students, which kind of instructor-made materials you are going to share with your students, and detailed activity which you have to plan. Which part of the module is going to be performed by which activity, whether this part is given to students for self-learning, whether this part will be explained by instructor, or whether this part will be explained through some link of some video. So you have to make a detailed plan of each and everything that you are going to perform under blended learning environment, and even you have to segregate between these activities are going to be performed through online mode and these activities are face-to-face mode. And for performing these activities we are going to use these kind of resources, right? So you have to describe each and every activity in detail so that your course plan is prepared. And in the last column, you have to mention the duration in minutes and how many minutes each and every activity will be performed. So it is a detailed plan. The first step of our IP-SIT model, we are identifying resources according to each and every activity. Every activity should be learner centered. Every activity should be towards completing our course objective. Every activity should be as far as the learner's capacity, what kind of learners we are getting. Accordingly, we will plan certain activities, and for those activities, what kind of resources we are needing. So we are preparing a detailed plan which mentions each and everything in a more specific way.